It's time for Twig This Week in Google. Ant and Stacy have the week off, so I'm thrilled to say Jeff Jarvis, Glenn Fleishman, and Kevin Marks join us this week to talk about Kanye, Elon, and Donald, the new big social media owners. We'll talk about Jack Dorsey's Bluesky initiative. In fact, Kevin's going to weigh in on the new protocol. Can this be the future of Twitter and all social media? And how TikTok ate the internet. Good. It's all coming up next on Twig.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twig. This is Twig. This Week in Google, episode 686, recorded Wednesday, October 19th, 2022. Indoctrinized and Radicalated. This episode of This Week in Google is brought to you by IT Pro TV. If you're looking to break into the world of IT, or if your IT team needs to level up, get the introduction you need with IT Pro TV. Check out an IT Pro TV business plan by visiting itpro.tv/twit today. And by HPE GreenLake, orchestrated by the experts at CDW, who can help you consolidate and manage all your data in one flexible edge-to-cloud platform to scale and innovate. Learn more at cdw.com/HPE. And by Nareva. Nareva has simplified everything about meetings and classroom audio. You get great audio in systems that are easy to install and manage. Visit nareva.com/twit and get 50% off one Nareva HDL 300 system for mid-sized rooms when you get a live online demo and buy before December 16th, 2022. It's time for Twig This Week in Google, the show where we get together with our favorite Googleversians to talk about Twitter and Facebook and everything else. Jeff Jarvis is here, Leonard Tao Professor for Journalistic Innovation at the Craig Newmark Graduate School of Journalism at the City University of New York. Hello, Jeff.
Hello, boss. How are you?
What camera are you using today? Because it looks really natural.
It's the same Logitech, but I just adjust it, and I've got to play with the adjusting.
It looks really good.
Down, I'll have to adjust again. Yeah, now it looks actually good. I look alive.
You look normal. Yeah. You look like
I have to play with the white balance and the exposure time and the gain and the brightness. And
you look like a really good mortician has gotten a hold of you and has just really cleaned you up good.
Yeah.
Stacy has the week off. So does Aunt Pruitt has the week off. But good news. Glenn Fleishman's here. We always love having Glenn on. Glenn.fun. Hello, Glenn.
Hello. How are y'all?
Great to see you. You've been on a jaunt across the great Midwest in search of lead.
Type in, I went to there should be a song for this, the Billy Ireland Cartoon Library, a museum at the OSU, the Ohio State University Libraries.
Is this the cartoon library or cartoon library?
It's but it's a very good one. They have an amazing collection. They have an upcoming exhibition that's going to show off the collection of Bill Blackbeard, great name, a guy who in a San Francisco rental house accumulated millions of comic strips that are being thrown out and deaccessioned by newspapers.
Oh, wow.
So that's it's an amazing collection, unreproducible collection. And they're about to do an exhibition celebrating the 25th anniversary of having acquired that from the now late Mr. Blackbeard.
Because we do have in San Francisco not a great cartoon library, and I would imagine other cities have something similar. This looks like a scholarly library of cartoons.
Yeah, they had great exhibitions, nice exhibition space, and their archives. They pulled stuff out from the back for me, and it was a glorious few days of sitting in a room and staring at things.
So is an archivist happy to have you there? Oh, let me show you this, and let me show you that. Kind of thing.
Absolutely. I answered questions about printing and looked at things and got answers.
Oh, interesting. So you were there not merely as a visitor; you were there as an expert.
I have developed as you know, a very strange expertise in very, very niche subjects. And so I've got a video that's in this upcoming exhibition about Bill Blackbeard.
No
about
kidding.
How,
Oh, really?
about how comics were printed or syndicated and then printed in the metal type era. So I did a video for them that'll be running during the exhibition, which is very exciting. My first participation in an exhibition.
Did you bring
Is this an opportunity to explain the phrase boilerplate?
Not in that one, but I could. But,
Okay.
hold something back for later when it's good. Right?
Did you bring any loot back from your trip?
No, unfortunately, no loot. Well, actually, I have a new flong, but it's too boring to show.
Oh.
I want to hear about the next.
Wait, I'll unpack later. I'll get up at some point and I'll show some metal type I did pick up along the way.
Oh, excellent.
Well, that's what I want to hear. I want to hear about the next visit.
The TSA had to inspect my luggage because I was carrying pounds of metal type, lead type back.
How heavy was your bag?
It was pretty heavy.
So you went to a collection of type foundry machines and materials, yes?
Yeah, there's this lovely fellow who passed away early this year in his 70s, Greg Walters, and he spent a good chunk of his life acquiring American type founding and type casting equipment. So the stuff that was used to make metal type for printers. And over by the 80s, nobody wanted this stuff. It was being thrown out and junked. And fortunately, this is kind of like the Bill Blackbeard story. He and a few other people have been collecting it and keeping it. Many of them keeping it in use and learning how to use it or refurbishing it. So Greg passed away, and some of his friends and colleagues have been working to consolidate his collection. He's got a giant barn in Pequot, Ohio, apparently home of Captain Underpants, I learned after being there.
Love Captain Underpants. Yeah. Kids grew up on Captain Underpants.
Glenn, have you read this?
I have not. I know of that book.
The Fall of AT.
It was very hard to find.
Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms?
American Type Founders.
Oh.
There were independent, before the Linotype, there were independent type foundries doing different sizes, different this, different that. And when the Linotype and the other typesetting machine hit, they knew they were doomed. And so they combined eventually into one company. And it was the American Type Founders, which can
a legal combine. They were allowed because they were if they had gone into business, there would have been no independent type production in America, which is kind of a big deal. I mean, we don't think about it now, but there were hundreds of thousands of individual printers, and they needed type to set the work for businesses and academic institutions all over the country.
They made little boxes like this.
Yeah.
With fonts.
We thought we were going to have Kevin Marks on. He's scheduled to be on. If he shows up, I'm going to hold a story until he shows up. But one of the big stories this week is we're starting to see for the first time a sort of an API for Bluesky, or at least a roadmap for decentralized networks. And because Kevin is all about open standards on the web, we'll get to this. If he shows up, I'll hold it until he shows up. Otherwise, we'll get to it.
And let's note, too, that next week you have Rabble on.
And Rabble's going to be on. Yeah, so we're going to be delving into this whole idea of social networks and federated social networks. Rabble created something that you were talking about with Mike Masnick some weeks ago, and you set me up with it, and he saw that I had joined. It's called Planetary. There hasn't been much activity on Planetary, but I did create an account and followed him. He also worked at Odeo and at Twitter and worked on Bluesky and knows a lot about Bluesky. So anything we say today is just preliminary to what we might talk about next week when Rabble.
So I can't wait till that discussion. But in the meantime,
well, I thought in the meantime we could still talk about social networks, because now we have Ye and Musk and Trump potentially owning three of the biggest, well, not biggest, most prominent, I don't even know, three social networks.
One big network and two other things.
Yeah, two other lesser networks. Twitter, of course,
kind of makes you miss Jack and think that Mark Zuckerberg isn't so bad, eh, folks? You didn't know what you had when you had it.
So I don't even know where to dip into this devil's food cake of fun, but I guess we could start with Kanye West, the artist formerly known as Kanye West, now known as Ye, who, after being booted off of Instagram and Twitter for blatantly racist and anti-Semitic postings, has decided, by the way, not a coincidence, shortly before those tweets and Instagram posts, he was seen at New York Fashion Week in a White Lives Matter outfit, which I guess, if you're given the benefit of the doubt, could be some sort of social commentary. I don't know. White Lives Matter, standing next to Candace Owens, who's also wearing a White Lives Matter t-shirt. She is the wife of the founder of Parler.
Sure.
Which Kanye has now announced that he wishes to buy in light of his being banned from Meta's Instagram and Twitter. Now, a whistleblower or a leaker, I don't know what you call them, from Parler says Parler only has about 50,000 daily active users, which is a goodly number. I bet you it's more than Mastodon. But anyway, 50,000. It's not an insignificant number, but it's not 300 million, which is what Twitter has. 50 million daily active users.
Well, 50 million. I think you said 50,000.
50,000. I did say 50,000, and that's correct. 50,000. Yeah. Okay. And the same leaker said, they've been shopping it for some time at a wildly overblown valuation. We still don't know what that amount of money is. Kanye, who's one of the richest musicians in the world, he's worth, I think, $6 billion. Can't afford Twitter, but he could probably afford Parler.
I can't remember who said it. I just saw this the other day. It might have been Ryan Broderick, who runs the Garbage Day newsletter. But it was that when you're an angry middle-aged or older man and someone tells you can't say something, you buy a social network now.
Yeah, that seems to be the case. Elon certainly, one of the motivations for him bidding $44 billion for Twitter was President Trump's deplatforming, getting kicked off of Twitter. So
Mike Masnick says that Ye is being taken advantage of.
Yes, sure. That's kind of the consensus. A lot of people say, well, he's mentally ill. We have to give him a pass. I don't know. Really? I don't know.
You're all on some spectrum of illness.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, you can have, this is the thing. A lot of things get attributed to people who are in mental health crises. But there's a lot of people with mental health issues. There's a huge number of people who have them, and a very, very, very small number of them are jerks in relative terms. I mean, compared to the rest of the population, having a mental health problem doesn't mean you kill people, doesn't mean you're a jerk, doesn't mean you don't listen to people. But so Kanye or Ye could be both a terrible person and be in a mental health crisis. And so you're allowed to have sympathy for the latter. Yeah, right. He can be both. I mean, there's nothing.
He doesn't get a pass.
Right. You have to look at his actions.
Yeah.
I mean, you can worry about his behavior and you wish there's people who he could listen to, but he's far too wealthy for anyone to tell him not to do something or for him to listen. And he's not going to be put into a conservatorship. He's, certainly in control enough of his affairs, but it seems like he's engaged in self-destructive and erratic behavior. And that's one thing. But the other is he's doing things that are intentionally harmful and damaging to groups of people and individuals. I mean, he was practically stalking Pete Davidson at one point when Davidson was dating his.
He still is. I mean, he tweeted he was a heroin addict. He's been saying all sorts of. So this is what Elon posted this morning, and it immediately took down. The three Elon says in retrospect.
Where's the fourth horseman of the apocalypse?
Yeah, in retrospect, it was inevitable. It's Trump, Musk, and Ye dressed as musketeers with their swords. Parler, Truth Social. Interestingly, Musk does not say Twitter, but says X because, of course, that's his plan, I guess. His evil genius, Dr. No plan. In retrospect, it was inevitable. Is it the end of these kinds of social media? I mean, this is, it's increasingly, if Musk posts this tells you that his plans for Twitter are not completely neutral or benign, right?
Glenn, what do you think first?
I mean, moderation is already a problem on the best moderated platform among those three would be Twitter, and it's a huge problem. They have huge issues with people being brigaded and dogpiled and harassed, and celebrities deciding whether, celebrities you might like and agree with, or celebrities that you think are odious, or other or political figures, figuring out ways to weaponize Twitter to attack people, to point all their followers to them and produce harm. So Twitter already has that problem. And Musk looks at that and says, there's not enough free speech there. There's too much control going on there. So most social networks, I think, thrive by the participation of a relatively small number of people who make it worthwhile to be there, and by some kind of oversight that keeps the noise just low enough that enough people stay there that it's worthwhile to advertisers. So Musk is basically going to drive off the people who are already like on the fence about staying on Twitter, whether celebrities or Jeff Jarvis's of the world, probably, right, Jeff? And then also the people who come there for some amount of content, some participation, parasocial or otherwise, they're going to leave too when it's all noise, when it's all garbage.
Yeah, I tweeted this, I think, during the week, that the extremes now see speech as censorship. You can't cancel me, you can't criticize me, right? And they see moderation and editing and publishing and choice as censorship. Then they don't see, of course, the paradox of that, because they want to have their say whatever they want to do. And yeah, I think it's the death of that kind of corporately controlled platform, potentially. I mean, we're not there yet. Musk doesn't own it yet. And that's why the Bluesky and planetary discussion is so interesting. Is there an opportunity for
this? Might be the time, right?
I put another story in the rundown, Leo.
Well, before we do, I just want to mention real quickly, the 5th District did this week, and I think in good news, it's good news, delay the enforcement of Texas's social media law. So now both Florida and Texas's questionable social media laws are on hold until, according to the 5th District, the Supreme Court weighs in on this. They haven't agreed to take it, but either to not take it or to agree to take it. So
it seems so prima facie. I mean, I'm not a constitutional lawyer, but I think that's everything I've read makes it sound like this is so blatantly unconstitutional, except if the Supreme Court decides to carve out something that then
it's constitutional.
Use the magic constitutional wand. But
right.
I don't think so. I don't think this falls inside the purview of the things that the conservative majority court wants to do. I don't think they don't seem to be eager to make to restrict speech by commercial entities, even if it's anti-conservative speech or whatever might be alleged.
As somebody, I think we pointed out last week, Kanye's evil tweets, had the Texas law been in effect, Texas could have forced Twitter not to take them down. So, it effectively bans moderation on large social networks.
Jeff, I thought, Jeff and Reese, what you were saying is, I think you have the same people saying, don't say gay, and saying, I want to be able to say the
whatever I want
slur about gay people. Right. And I'm like, those are so obviously contradictory that they are fascist in nature, right? There's no way to interpret
speech for thee and not speech for me and not for thee.
Exactly. Yeah. But they couch it in all this, approach as if it is some kind of free speech maximalism. And then they're constantly, the cancel culture, everything else. They don't want people to say anything that is outside of what they think is okay to say.
I mean, it's pretty clear to me at this point that after 4 years of Donald Trump, the lesson learned by some people was deny and lie. You could say anything you want, even if it's clearly not factual based. Just say whatever you want. Say what and so any inconsistency in that, they just gloss over, and the people who believe in them and support them will go along with it, and the rest of us didn't like them much anyway. So there you go.
But the point is to irritate people. The point is to own the libs. The point is to be insurrectionists.
Well, I don't know what the point is. I think ultimately,
it doesn't matter what you say.
Ultimately, that's the real point, is to gain power. Not to irritate the libs, but
the way you do it. Well, but the way you do it.
There's a group of people in the world for whom the goal is to irritate the libs, and they will vote for you.
And you exactly.
Yeah, and they will vote for you. But I am not at all sanguine about Ron DeSantis or any of these people. Their intent is not to irritate the libs. They're just using that as a way to get elected. Their intent is to consolidate power.
Their intent is to destroy. But there's another paradox here. Their intent is to destroy the institutions of democracy.
Yeah, because that's
what autocrats do.
They know, and they have said. They've said it. They've said the quiet part out loud. We can't win if we don't.
Right.
And so they know that they only have 30 or 40% of the populace, and so they don't. Just as Hitler did not have a majority in Weimar Germany, they know that they have to win by other means, and they've used this social platform not the social media platform, but the social platform of gay
Of its
marriage
day.
and abortion and all of these things to convince.
Where's your Hitler jar? You have to put $5 in the Hitler jar.
Oh, that one is a full jar. There's no room.
That's bulging.
No room
I think
left.
I
in the
think
Hitler
Godwin
jar.
has given
a pass.
absolution for.
Godwin's given us a pass today.
No, but it's true, right? Democracy, minoritarian governments are not democratic, typically democratic in nature, because the minority. If the minority can maintain
look in
control
Italy,
over the long term,
she only won
gosh.
24% of the vote, but it was enough to make a parliament for her in a parliamentary democracy to.
look at England. England's about to have the fifth prime minister in how many years? And she won. People keep saying, here's the thing I think you have to say about the UK is they say that Liz Truss won the votes of 160,000 Conservative Party members. And it's like far fewer than that voted. And she won a minority of those votes in the first round. So she didn't even get 160,000 votes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Musk, according to the information, will have absolute control over Twitter. They have apparently seen the new purchase documents. These are the new ones.
Oh.
And he will have sole discretion to decide what to do with Twitter, whether to sell it, to have an IPO, who's on the board. He will have, quote, exclusive authority to appoint and remove members of the board. And all minority investors have to agree to vote for whoever he nominates. This is the
said like a true autocrat.
Yeah. This is somebody pointed out yesterday. This comes from Elon being ousted at PayPal back in the day. He needs that kind of control. He doesn't feel secure otherwise. This is the shareholders agreement prepared by Musk's lawyers for equity investors. So he can do an IPO. If he wants. I mean, he's got to find some way to recoup his $44 billion.
He's not going to be able to finance this, though, still, right? I mean, I was reading about some of the banks involved are dubious about whether they'd like to pull out. If they can find an excuse, they will. So you could have subsidiary lawsuits. He's, what's the best way to destroy yourself, I guess, is to try to buy a social network because, boy, if his fortune's changed despite the success of Tesla as a car company, since he said he was going to buy Twitter. It just feels like he cursed himself.
Is this some sort of indication that we are at end times for social networks? Because let's face it, Meta is not doing so great either.
No. Well, so there is a story I put in the rundown that I think is oddly relevant, Leo. It is, I got to give you the line number, don't I? 63. A company formerly known as Jarvis.ai, now called Jasper.ai, because I'm going to guess a certain movie company had a problem with using my name. So they just got a big investment at a $1.5 billion. So if you go back up again, if you would be so kind, and go under, I think it's features. Try that. I want to go to their product page. I tweeted these product pages today, and it's just amazing. Or maybe start for free. Try that. Down below. There you go. No, sorry, back. Sorry, I didn't prepare well enough to get you on the right. So what they're saying is we're going to use your AI to create. Oh, here we go. These are these things. So we're going to. That's it. So social media. You're going to use AI to create months of social media.
Come up with dozens of clever Instagram captions. Some may be quite funny. Right, catchy videos. Already, by the way, you can see this on TikTok. I guess somewhat on YouTube. It's a little more opaque. But on TikTok, it's clear that a lot of the content is AI generated. A lot of the scripts are. There's a lot of accounts that are completely spammy accounts. TikTok is suffering from this already. You can also, with Jasper. So Jasper is an AI platform based on GPT-3. It's like GPT-3. It'll generate.
It's been around, I think, a little bit longer. I don't know. And it does art too. But if you go to the articles one,
it's the only AI trained with direct response marketing frameworks. Oh, that's good news.
Now go to the articles.
It'll also write your WordPress articles.
Stop struggling with how to begin an article and break through your writer's block with AI. Write SEO optimized blog posts 10 times faster with Jasper.
This is very dystopian.
Isn't it? It's awful.
A world filled with AI generated content.
Well, so that's my point. I think what this leads to is not the death of social, it's the death of content. It's the death of the idea of content.
So this is okay.
Content was some
So this is
precious
interesting
thing we had to make.
because 2
And now
weeks
it's
ago we talked
everywhere.
about that article you brought up about the end of social, and it's being replaced by content, by TikTok and YouTube videos, and now how
it's the end of
quickly that
content.
ended.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
2 weeks later.
When can we get cut out of this? Like, I can't wait for AIs to both produce and consume content. We don't need to be involved. We could be doing something much more useful with our time.
Well, that's
My
clearly-
AI will fight with your AI. Yeah.
That's clearly the premise of Jasper AI is don't waste your time creating content or marketing tools or advertising. Just let AI do it, and you go on to do what? Play golf, attempt to buy
So content
social networks.
content and conversation become completely devalued.
Yeah.
Right, because we hit an endless abundance of it. We don't know the source. We don't have any real relationships. This is the dystopia. And then I think that burns through all the old companies. And then I think a little blue sky from the ashes of the nuclear waste comes up with new conversations and new ways people.
Well, you're
connect.
acting as if it's a human need to post 280 character mini.
It's a
blogs.
human need for me to meet Glenn Fleishman. Yes, it is.
But here's my question about that, though, is that I feel like we are in a golden age. Gosh, this is when I wish Kevin was here because he's such an blogger. You know, I think I was back there.
Yeah.
We're all back there kind of at the beginning, right? But I feel like Kevin has had his finger on the pulse of this. So well, anyway, it feels like we're in another golden age where people want to read things. Long form journalism, maybe it's hard to fund it, but people want to read it. I mean, I find myself navigating. I use the news app on Apple's news app, and it always directs me to really interesting, super long articles that I'm shocked are still being written and that are great. People, Substack and the rise of newsletters. Now, I know there are blips in that model, but people are writing thousands or tens of thousands of words a week and to new audiences to read them where they couldn't reach them before. The amount of good programming being produced, video series and movies. Like we're in a golden age of interesting stuff being made, some of it quite original. It's not all derivative. We're seeing great adaptations, but also entirely new things. We're seeing voices heard that weren't before, even if they aren't being heard as much as they should. So, but you contrast that with like, well, let's just automate all social media. Maybe the short stuff just needs to be stuff we don't pay any attention to anymore. Maybe that's the point.
I'm not going to miss Parler or Truth Social. I suppose there's a group of people who might. There's still Gab, Getter. There's plenty of
who's buying Gab, right?
Yeah, there's still plenty of right-wing,
That'll be Glenn
echo
Greenwald. We'll take that. Well, no, Glenn Greenwald is doing, he's the fourth. He's doing, what is it, Rabble?
Oh, is he
I don't
associating
know.
himself with?
I don't think he's buying it, but he's, he's their star. They've kind of invested in him. So he's doing a whole
sad
big thing with
story.
Rebel.
Given all the harassment he got from Bolsonaro, he's now seems to be tacitly supporting Bolsonaro, which is incredible.
I don't,
like
Putin. Greenwald is a study in
he's
something. I don't really know.
He's gone over the edge
what
and in the
happened to
rabbit
him.
hole and out the other side and up in a manhole cover in Moscow. I mean, he's just wacky.
Article, let's see. Okay, so Parler, Truth Social, Twitter, Meta. Is Meta in good shape? Is it going to emerge from this as the as a sole surviving social?
They're abandoning social.
They even don't believe it.
Yeah.
They're doing
not,
VR. Yeah.
It's not growth for them anymore, right? That's the Facebook thing. Is they haven't found, they want the next big thing, and if social, even if it's a sustainable advertising, high profit advertising thing, they don't care. It's delightful though. I kind of love watching Zuckerberg, Homer Simpson, his own company. And, usually you have to bring in somebody from outside to ruin your company with elaborate ideas that don't work. He's doing it himself. You all remember Bezos's Amazon Fire Phone, and he learned a lesson from that. There's not been a Fire Phone since Bezos Simpson's that, right? I mean, that was a incredible debacle, incredibly embarrassing. And they learned, and Zuckerberg feels like he's betting the company and on something, those articles coming out where they're having to practically force employees to use Horizon, where I love the whole thing where that piece where it said there are no girls in hot girl summer room or whatever. There's just Oh my God, it just sounds like the worst party.
What if they go to a metaverse and nobody came? Yeah.
It's the DashCon ball pit, but that's all it is. One giant but tiny ball pit.
All right, I want to take a little break. We'll come back. We've got Glenn Fleishman and Jeff Jarvis. I could just sit back and relax. This show can be on autopilot. You guys are great.
Wait till we get to fonts.
Wait till we just.
I'm gonna go get some type.
Go get some type, please. We'll take a little break. Come back. Do we know? Are we just going to say Kevin isn't going to make it, or hasn't showed up?
Rats.
No word, says Jason. Jason, I presume you're reaching out. I wonder if he got the wrong day or time. He is in the UK, and it may be too late at night. Yeah. Our show today maybe
he's the next chance. I'm sorry.
We'll go on. We'll go on with we'll do the Bluesky story since it ties in. Our show today brought to you by IT Pro TV. These are some people I've known for some time. In fact, I'm pretty sure since before they even launched IT Pro TV in 2013. I met the founders, Tim and Don, at NAB some years earlier. We had a panel. Adam Carolla was on and I was on, a bunch of creators on the internet talking about, how the internet was providing this great platform for content. And Tim and Don, who at the time were IT trainers, traditional IT trainers, looked at it and said, it'd be interesting to do IT training over the internet. And IT Pro TV was born. And I'll take a little credit that they kind of modeled it on what we do here at Twit. They've gone well beyond anything we've ever done. Lisa and I flew out a few years ago to see the grand opening of their new studios in Gainesville, Florida. They have 7 studios operating all day, Monday through Friday. I mean, they are just on a tear, creating the best content for anybody who wants to break into the world of IT, who's already in IT but wants to get new skills, get maybe recertified, and even for companies who with IT teams, they want to level up. IT Pro TV is the best IT training anywhere. Better than a brick and mortar school, better than doing it on your own. It's fun, it's engaging, and it really works. Check out the IT Pro TV business plan. If you've got a business, it's really important that your IT team know their business, right? Know the job, are up to date on all the latest information. But I think you're also probably thinking it's important that you retain them. This is a hard thing to do in this day and age. This is a benefit that they will really appreciate. Give them IT Pro TV. Not only will they find it engaging, not only will they get new skills, upgrade their existing skills, recertify, they'll be grateful. 80% of the users, more than 80% of the users who start a video on IT Pro TV, watch it all the way through. That's how engaging it is. And you can do it anywhere. On your TV, on your computer. They have an Apple TV app. They have a Roku app. It works on mobile. So whenever they've got a spare moment, each episode is about 20 to 30 minutes. So whenever your IT team has a spare moment, they can learn. And they love it because the IT Pro TV trainers are, well, they call them edutainers. They are professionals in the field. So these are their peers talking to them, people they look up to, people who really know their business, the real experts. But they all have a spark. They all have a certain something. I think it's a passion for the subject matter. So your IT pros are going to watch these videos and go, yeah, these guys get it. These guys, I'm learning from them, and their enthusiasm is communicating. I'm excited about my job again. This is going to really transform your IT team. They can get training for any area of IT and even some soft skills, all the certifications, one place where you can go. IT Pro TV has every vendor, every skill, Microsoft IT training, Cisco training, Linux, Apple, security, cloud, and so much more. More than 5,800 hours worth, ranging from technical skills to compliance to soft skills. And the business plan has a great dashboard. You can track everything that's going on, manage seats, assign and unassigned team members. You can even create subsets of your team and say, you guys learn this, you guys learn this. You'll get monthly usage reports. You'll get beautiful visual reports so that you can show the boss, here's our ROI. Look, these guys are really watching it. You'll get immediate insight into their viewing patterns, their progress. I think you're going to love IT Pro TV, and I know your IT professionals will And I know anybody who loves IT or wants to get in IT loves IT Pro TV. We've seen that over the years. Individual plans, business plans, go to itpro.tv/twit right now. Give your team the IT development platform they need to level up their skills while enjoying the journey. For teams of 2 to 1,000, they've got it for you. itpro.tv/twit. itpro.tv/twit. Thank you, IT Pro TV, for all you do for us. I know many of our viewers and listeners are IT Pro TV graduates or attending right now. IT Pro, and the rest of you are IT Pro TV future students. itpro.tv/twit. Hey, good news! Kevin Marks is here. Yay! We've added Kevin to the lineup all the way from the UK, where it is late in the evening. Hi, Kevin.
Hi there. No, sorry about that. I've been a bit sick the last 2 days, so I lost track of the
Oh, I'm so sorry. I hope you're feeling all right now.
Well, I've got cough sweet, so I'll try and keep going and mute when I cough.
Okay.
I thought maybe you were the next chancellor.
Well, that's the other thing, is I've been watching the UK Parliament this evening and rolling my eyes in disbelief. So yeah.
What's going on?
The government is collapsing in 3 ways at once, basically. It's a bit hard to tell exactly what's going on, but they had a vote on fracking tonight that was called by Labour. The government first said it was a confidence vote. Then when they realised they were going to lose, said it wasn't a confidence vote. Then they were actually wrestling with each other in the voting line, and the 2 chief whip resigned. And
oh, my God.
I don't actually know what's going on at the moment.
Order!
This cabinet secretary who yesterday was raving about, let's see if I can do it, Guardian reading, tofu eating woketarians.
Oh, my God.
Was forced to resign over a security breach today.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Yes.
And all of this precipitated by a tax cut, which is something that here in the U.S. would guarantee you 4 more years.
It's a tax cut for the very, very richest.
That's the problem. And the markets didn't like it, which is weird also.
It was a combination of... Yeah. It was a combination of a tax cut and no plan for how you would pay for it. No budget balancing, basically.
That never stopped us.
Yeah.
Not putting it past the OBR and firing this chief officer in charge of it. So basically, what it meant was the markets were looking at this going, this doesn't add up. I don't understand what they're going to do. We need to understand what's really going on. But clearly they're spending at the wrong end of the economic distribution, because actually the big challenge here at the moment is the cost of the rise in the price of gas, like methane gas.
So your inflation is worse than ours.
Yeah.
And that's pushing up our inflation. But also it's explicitly pushing up household bills by a factor of 4 for electricity and gas. Which
Yikes.
I have people on Twitter
for that as well.
I have people on Twitter actually telling me, when I'm like, there are some businesses that they're going to see 4 to 6-fold increases in their electrical costs, for instance. They're like, no, you're making that up. There must be. It's just the market. It's like, no, these are sources. This is literally, people are posting the bills. They're watching like bakeries go from 5,000 pounds. Well, no,
it's not Liz Truss's fault. That's the war in Ukraine's fault. That's Russia's fault,
right?
I mean,
Boris Johnson and Brexit too.
Partly.
It's also like only investing in gas for the last 20 years rather than looking at other energy supplies and blocking onshore wind and blocking installation of housing and blocking nuclear for 20 years. There's a great deal of sort of built up stuff. We've cut down on coal, but we've basically replaced it with natural gas. And also they closed the natural gas storage facility 2 years ago, so we can't actually store any of it. So it's this like great cascade failure of government. So they're trying to, what they need to do, and what the first thing they said they were going to do, which is somewhat to their credit, but it was, we were waiting for the Johnson debacle and the internal election to finish, was that they said, okay, we are going to work out how to fund your bills, and we'll pay you, so that you don't have to pay all these bills yourselves. But then they also refused to do a windfall tax on the gas company who's getting all the windfall profits from this. And so basically the budget didn't add up at all. So the markets were looking at this going, this can only work if they're going to cut something else. They haven't said what that's going to be. And then it just got more and more chaotic. And eventually they were like,
so you should do what we do.
Rate was forced up.
You should just be stuck with whoever you got for 4 years, and you're stuck. You're just stuck.
They sort of are. Well, that gets a whole other thing. But when's the general election? It's 2024, 2025,
months,
Kevin.
right?
The next.
It has to happen by I think January 2025. But the Prime Minister can call one before that if they decide to, or the Parliament can call one by voting no confidence in the Prime Minister.
That's why I'm surprised that has not happened.
Well, the Conservatives still have a majority of 70 or so. So it would take a lot of them to defect or quit or commit suicide for that to actually happen.
And they're 30% behind in the polls, so they probably don't want to do it now.
Right.
If Facebook were a country, it would be England.
Oh, that's mean. I don't know.
That's a little harsh.
We saved a story.
So you do have our old Deputy Prime Minister running Facebook's.
That's right, Nick Clegg.
That's true.
That's right.
That's right.
So maybe there is something to that. We saved a story just for you, Kevin Marks, because I really wanted to get your comment on it. As you know, Jack Dorsey, before leaving Twitter, established and funded something called Bluesky Social, which is an attempt to create a federated Twitter, the next Twitter, in effect. It is now kind of going public. In fact, I'm here on the launch page, which is bsky.app. See what's next, Bluesky Social.
App page, then there's also the API page.
So, yeah, there's a new API, which is called AT, I think, the AT protocol. If you go to blueskywebx.xyz. Is that what they call it? The at? Oh, that makes sense. At.
It's actually really bad because if you search for AT, you get modem commands and things. So.
Yeah, it was ADX.
SEO thinking.
It was called the Authenticated Transfer Protocol, or ADX. But I guess because of the @ sign on Twitter, they thought it'd be clever to call it the @ protocol. So I'm curious because we know you're the open web advocate, Mr. Indie Web and open standards and all that. What is your initial thought?
Can you go down so for the audience, can you go down there's a list of 4 principles to it on that post. It might be useful to have that as a background.
Yeah, account portability. A person's online identity should not be owned by corporations with no accountability to their users, aka Twitter. With the AT protocol, you can move your account from one provider to another without losing any of your data or social graph. That's great. And by the way, that's right now what Mastodon offers. I guess that's we'll talk to Rabble next week about his proposed setup.
You can't really move things inside. But it's one of the things that he hasn't quite solved yet. At least maybe he has since I last looked at it. But one of the problems that his thing has is it's very tied to the device. So if you change phones, you tend to lose it all.
Right. The second point is algorithmic choice. Algorithms dictate what we see, who we can reach. We must have control over the algorithms if we're going to trust in our online spaces. The AT protocol includes an open algorithms mode, so users have more control over their experience.
And what this says to me, just tell me if I'm wrong here at this moment, is that you could also have a choice among algorithms.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Right.
Interoperation. The world needs a diverse market of connected services, et cetera, et cetera. The AT protocol includes a schema-based interoperation framework called Lexicon to help solve coordination challenges. I guess that's toward federating, or is it something like federating, I guess. And then finally, the fourth tentpole, performance. A lot of novel protocols throw performance out of the window. I think it's something the folks at Twitter learned is you can't do that. Fail well. Resulting in long loading times before you can see your timeline. We don't see performance as optional, so we've made it a priority to build for fast loading at large scales. I mean, it makes sense. This is a team that has real world battlefield experience with Twitter. So it makes sense.
To some extent, I think a lot of them are third parties, but they've got Paul Frazee there who built the Beaker browser on the DAP protocol. So he's sort of got the experience of building alternate protocols and things. So that's sensible. And from what I've read of it so far, it's more sensible than the first drafts, which is good. But they're sort of edging towards the IndieWeb principle of domains are identifiers, but kind of pretending that they're not by wrapping them in DIDs. That's my sort of high level thing. So the thing about account portability is we have account portability. It's called domain names. You can buy a domain name for a fixed period of time. You can argue you can rent a domain name, but you put money down, you buy a domain name. I've got kevinmarks.com. You've got twit.tv, whatever. You can pay that down for 5 years or 10 years or whatever. You can move where that is hosted automatically. You can move the registrar for that automatically. That was a problem 25 years ago. That's kind of solved now. At that level of portability, that exists. So given that you've got that and you've got addressability via URLs, a lot of the other stuff of this is sort of somewhat redundant. And it sort of feels like that as well, because their protocol, the transport protocol, is basically a wraparound HTTPS, which is fine. That's a good idea. But they're just wrapping it in some extra complication so they can build their own protocol on top of it.
So
the IndieWeb point of view is like, so we use HTTPS and we use HTML as the transport protocol, and we'll define some ways of marking up the HTML so we can do that. And then we have a few API hooks for saying this is a reply, this is a follow, and so on. They've got some the interesting bits in the app proto stuff. Was they were talking about an interesting distinction that I haven't seen made before. If I can find where it is. Is it the developers page?
There is an at proto.com /docs.
Yeah, there we go. So it's sort of taken the ID provision stuff, the global IDs, and then you go and look at them. They're actually URLs, and then they've got keys to map the URLs, which is kind of unnecessary in my experience. The way you get human readable names is by using actual domain names. The did ones look like hell and aren't human readable.
So are you saying, Kevin, that every user would have a domain name as their ID?
That's what it looks like.
So that's one of the problems to solve it, and it's key to the first two principles is you have to have a unique name that's
you can have a subdomain. So again, you can have a subdomain like you can have a subdomain on Tumblr or blog.
So I'm at Leo Laporte on Twitter.com. That is,
but you don't get that as a subdomain. You get that at twitter.com/Leo Laporte. Whereas if you're on Tumblr, you're leolaporte.tumblr.com.
Right.
Which is a subdomain which works as a separate routing entity. And
but you could also be leolaporte.com, which would be the
leolaporte.com, yeah.
That would be the true universal indicator.
So would everybody, I mean, it seems to me that that's not how most people think of their social. They think of going to a company, and that's the root domain, and then having their user ID at that root domain, even if it's leo.tumblr.blog or .net.
But that's fine. I mean, you can debate that, and I've been arguing with Blaine about this for at least 15 years, and his mythical grandmother who doesn't like URLs. But actually, when we were blogging, we understood URLs fairly quickly and knew how to link to each other and could work it out.
Could every human in the world have their own domain? Would that be advisable?
Yes.
Okay.
Or they could have they can have subdomains. People can give you subdomains.
Yeah, we could have the Laporte family, and then. You could be
or you could create twigclub.com,
right,
or twig.club and give away or sell subdomains.
Well, we do with Mastodon. We have twit.social, and I'm twit.social at Leo, I guess.
But a URL becomes a UPL, a universal people locator, right? It becomes something that can then operate across any domain. Which
the key is this has to be portable. So it can't be tied to Twitter.
Portable.
Yeah, it can't be tied to Twitter because then I wouldn't be able to leave Twitter. It has to be somehow portable.
Yeah, so the portability comes in where this is why you register your own domain, and then you can change the CNAME and move it to somewhere else. So I can register kevinmarks.com, and that used to point at my friend's server in
so this is analogous to email right now.
Now it points to...
It's analogous to email. A lot of people have yahoo.com or gmail.com. But I've long recommended you go out and get a domain name. So I'm Leo at leoville.com. And then I can use a MX record
by Google for my old ones of those.
Yeah, so I can point that anywhere I want, or even host my own email, which nobody does anymore because...
Yeah, that's for different reasons, but yes.
Yeah, for another reason entirely.
Deliverability.
Yeah.
DKIM. But yeah, and the point is we actually know how to... We know how to do portable names on the internet. They're called domain names. They're solved at more than one layer. Anything that's any serious hosting provider like Tumblr or Microblog or Blogger will have a way for you to route to your own domain name if you want.
I have tumbleleo.com leads to my Tumbleleo Tumblr.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not universal. The content on there can be exported, but I think what's really interesting here is that there's a universal idea. It's a global ID. It's a new namespace. In that sense, it may be built on domains, but if everybody felt they had to have their own, it's like having a street address. You have a unique address.
Well, I mean, making namespaces has been a good business model for companies for a while. Twitter does quite well out of its namespaces, and if you've got a nice short Instagram name, you know that everyone is trying to steal it from you, and so you could do that. But and also domain names themselves are saleable. You can buy and sell domain names and register ones, and if you've registered one,
control means you can do that too. Yeah, if you control it, you can sell it.
Yeah. So there's it's. There's a lot of these distributed things keep trying to reinvent things that don't need reinventing, because actually domain names are distributed. They're fungible in the good sense. You can they're substitutable. You can swap out your domain name provider. You can swap out your DNS resolver. You can swap out your hosting, and all three layers are straightforwardly swappable because we've had the fights and the lawsuits and the dispute resolution procedures. And we've got ICANN dispute resolution about who gets to own a name. And we've got DNS hierarchy and who gets to create DNS things. And we've got different hosting providers you can point things at. And the ones that have been sort of scammy and lock people in have mostly been dumped in favor of ones that aren't. There's a certain amount of sort of upsellness to it, but broadly that's true now.
So Kevin, I'd like to have your kind of high level on this. Do you have hope for Bluesky that it's going to develop into something useful and interoperable with what you're working on, or not, and why not? If that's the case,
I'd like to get them to interoperate with us, but they're always a bit not invented here about things. But I would, yes, I would like to get them to do that. There was I'm trying to find the bit that I thought was interesting in this, which
I have to say I'm confused about the whole algorithmic choice aspect of this. Feels like there's a right-wing focus. I mean, not to belittle this from a computer science standpoint or something like that, but there seems to be a right-wing focus on the algorithm as a tool of anti-free speech that's enforced on existing social networks. I mean, I don't understand what algorithm choice means in this context.
You're missing the left-wing point of view on this.
You get to
The left-wing point of view on this is the algorithms lead you down an extremist path.
Okay.
There's a story, this week about how invariably YouTube's algorithm will choose extremist content because it turns out to be more engaging. So that's the other side of the bad algorithm.
And also Twitter will choose obnoxious content because that is more engaging.
Yeah.
And so since they stopped being
it'd be nice to have plug and play
amplified
algorithms.
I see.
I could say
there'll be a pop-up menu that says fascism, spam, actual good people.
Yeah, that's part of the problem is, well, how's that going to work? Yeah.
Well, John Palfrey, I think it is, has argued for a long time. He argued to Facebook. I saw him do it at, Davos, where he said, let somebody create their own dial. Well, you want nothing but crap? Go ahead. That's your choice.
Twitter
to have
list. Your COVID list, for instance, is an algorithmic sort of.
No, so Twitter has a bunch of options in it. That it has a sort of confusing number of them now. I'm getting kind of lost in that left sidebar because it's got lists. It's got the home versus chronological toggle. It's now got communities, whatever they're called. They're gone again.
Custom time.
I don't have communities. I have
click more. I think they're in there.
Under more.
Under more now.
That's when you know you got a problem. When you have a lot
of baffling communities. I don't get.
Yeah, so they've got communities,
topics, right? You can set up.
Oh, there's a lot of these,
and then they get tagged by weird things like topics.
Yeah, it's topics. I mean, this is part of lists.
Yeah, I did. At first it revealed this by saying, "Give us some topics you're interested in," and so I am following quite a few. It turns out I didn't realize about 18 topics.
I find them useless.
Yeah, but I don't even know what that means. Does that mean that those are going to be new accounts that I normally?
That feeds into your home feed. If you look at the home feed, it sometimes say because you follow topic X.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you've got lists, which is sub lists of people in Twitter. You've also got Circle now, which I don't actually understand at all. because I got bored at that point. But yeah, lists are kind of useful. Lists are, here's a subset of accounts. What have they been talking about recently?
Yeah.
And I've chosen them explicitly,
Yes.
and all I get is them in your reverse cron. So that's the
and in the mobile version, you can sort of swipe between lists at the top.
And at one point, many years ago, I created a bunch of lists of my own.
I know, and I've minor.
Have I looked at them ever? No.
Yeah, I've totally forgotten about lists.
Yeah. So lists, unless I click on a list, that doesn't change my home feed. But topics does.
Topics only influences it slightly because it just makes them more likely to show up.
Okay, and communities.
Communities is sort of weird subsets that you can post to, and that is only seen by those communities.
Oh,
but they show up in your home
Google
feed,
Plus.
or they show up in the community feed. So it's
I tried
kind of
to
like
create
Google
one.
Plus, but a bit weird.
Yeah, I don't even understand it, and I tried it. It's just this is part of their. Yeah, I mean, not that I want Elon Musk to own it, but it is kind of feels like there's a lot of spaghetti on a lot of walls.
yeah.
I mean, they've been trying to solve this problem for a long time.
Where's the sauce?
So topics is a little bit Reddit, is what it is, because you have to ask to join, and it's a little bit of a Reddit kind of.
Well, then there's also the thing now where I can also have a small group of people, Twitter circle.
Your circle. Let me add you to my circle.
It's
have no
recommending
one
this
there
guy
yet.
named Jeff Jarvis for mine. I don't know why.
Who's recommended? My wife, some people I worked with at Tech TV, Aunt Pruitt, Dick D. So I'm just going to add these people to my circle. Now what? Do I see them?
You can tweet just to them.
Oh,
it's like a large
So
expanded
now try
view.
to tweet. Now try to tweet and see if it.
I can
gives you a
choose when I
choice.
tweet.
I have
can
not done
say.
circle.
And now my
It's
tweet
an
is
in-
grayed out.
Yeah, it doesn't work in dark
there
mode,
it is.
Leo.
There it is. Everyone Twitter circle. There's only one circle, and then I'm
Wait,
in
do other people
a community.
Do other people see it when you tweet? This is so funny. Do other people see it when you tweet to your Twitter circle?
Yes.
Only your
Or is
Twitter
that
See
circle
it,
can
and
reply.
You're told that
Can
only
reply.
you
Oh.
and select people have seen it. I'm
Oh
in a
my
few
God.
people put me in a
Replies
few
working
circles.
either.
So you can have a public click on Twitter now.
So this isn't exactly choosing an algorithm, but it's Twitter's version of it, because Twitter is all based on who you follow. So it makes sense. This is kind of
Right,
more.
but Leo, the real point of Bluesky, I think, is I could hire someone to create an algorithm for me. I could hire someone to create the best science and curate that and find the best people and eliminate junk science. And I could hire the Neil deGrasse Tyson version of Bluesky.
But then I can push that out as a product. Can I push that out as a product? Can I create? Can I create Jarvis? Strangely enough, a Jarvis site. No, that name's been taken, and that would be all the an excellently curated thing that comes from all Bluesky posts, but running through the Jarvis algorithm.
Right, and maybe it also eliminates certain topics. It doesn't allow Helvetica. It reprioritizes things. It adds people or does things. That's the promise. I said this on Twitter to Jack, and he said, "Yeah, that's the idea." It's very WordPress like. There's an open source layer of code, and then there's companies can be built upon top of it. And as Matt said to us a few weeks ago, WordPress.com does not dominate the use of WordPress.
Can I channel our audience at this point? This is all too damn complicated. Nobody wants this. The reason Twitter existed in the first place was it was damn simple.
But you're going to create the twit thing that's going to be really easy to use, and that becomes an opportunity for you in business because you simplify it. Yes, it's complicated, and you, Leo, will come on and you will create a beautiful.
All right, so let's say I created some
experience.
beautiful, simple thing.
So do I have to add a certain number of people before it lets me use the Twitter circle?
Sorry?
Or does it change? How does the circle work now?
Now you
dirty
tweet.
around the circles.
Now you tweet, and you can choose who that tweet
I
goes
see.
to.
Okay.
Everyone circle so. If I create something that is simple, because I know, frankly, that people don't want anything this complex,
Right.
I'll be the the arbiter.
Leo's best stuff.
And then what? Where is it hosted?
It's federated.
So I have to host it.
No, so it should-
Or there's a hosting
Or I could go to
company,
micro.blog or somewhere, and
exactly.
and they can
Right.
host it. Okay,
Right,
And then
right.
the advantage is somebody can move out, or
exactly. They can take with them their own content that they posted there and their social graph, both.
So I see.
And they can move
I see
to
exactly why Kevin Marks. You said this. This is just the internet. This is called the World Wide Web.
Yeah.
This is websites, and maybe web mentions.
Yeah. So this is the point. That basically,
which is good. We return to the web.
Yeah, but we already have this.
We have this. We kind of have this with
nobody's
the web
using
stuff,
it, by the way.
But the challenge is getting people to use it.
Yeah.
And so I'm happy to go and talk to the Bluesky people or the proto people, whatever they're called this week, and say, yeah, I agree with a big bunch of what you're saying. Can you make your web-based version of this match our web-based version of this? And then we can interoperate. And that's great. Like I went to Tumblr, I said, can we put Finder formats on Tumblr? And they said, yeah, sure. And now they have them.
World peace right here. We can see it before our eyes.
So
yeah, but I don't see any massive adoption of any of this.
Well, because you're killing it before it's even the zygote is even impregnated here. Jeez, man.
But I mean, honestly, let's just be honest with ourselves. If we take a look at it, nobody's going to do this.
It could probably get to Mastodon scale without too much trouble.
Well, but this isn't the point of this protocol.
But then you'll get the same issues that Mastodon has.
Jack wants Twitter. I mean, Jack's goal is that Twitter would adopt Bluesky, right? So that would get you your massive.
It would just be
adoption.
a Bluesky based or an protocol based.
Yeah,
client.
I mean, conceivably, I don't know if he'll have the ability to do it, but if Elon actually does complete,
Elon's not going to do this.
No, I thought he wanted.
Well, this is independent of Elon.
Of it is, but
he'd screw it up if he touched it.
Okay,
yeah, because Jack wants it.
There's
that's why Jack's sucking up to Elon. I think.
There's your first MVP gone. Who's next? Is Mastodon going to do this? Is
what Twitter has to do is open up to it. Yes.
Right.
And Jack is going to say to Elon, this is the path. And this is how you also get out of trouble. Elon, somebody posted something. They didn't post it on Twitter. They posted it on Leoville. And who cares? And the government can come after you and you can't take it down. And that's your free speech world you want, Elon. Follow me. Follow the light, Elon. Follow the light, says Jack.
And will Elon do it? No.
I don't know. He might.
That smells very blockchainy. I know there's no blockchain element to it, or at least in this implementation. But that idea of but it is. This is why you have layers and protocols. Is it lets you wash your hands of the problems of other layers, and then we've seen what happens to Cloudflare when Cloudflare tries to say we are not a layer of responsibility for the content.
Well, this is an uncontrollable world,
right?
That's why. The conservatives will like it because it's uncontrollable by the libs. The libs should like it because it's uncontrollable by government.
Kevin, what is your best sense of the chances of success?
It's like any of these things. It's like, Mastodon has done reasonably well. It's ticking over. It's not grown to the same size as any of the others, as Twitter or Tumblr say, but it's got a reasonably stable set of people using it, and it's shown up some of the issues that come in when you have multiple interoperating servers and things like that. So that's a good model to look at. And it was 2 or 3 years ago we were chatting about that here. Was it? Maybe it's 4 years ago.
I still run a Mastodon instance. I can't say it's particularly active. In fact, Mastodon.technology just shut down.
I saw that.
Yeah, so Mastodon's taking over.
Migration working now.
It's kind of idling. I mean, I love Mastodon, but it's got the network problem. All of these have the same network problem, which is until your friends use it, you're not going to use it. I'm sure it's working well for some people whose friends are all using it. It's very
and that's
geeky.
it. Well, that's like any of these things. I mean, and for some extent, I approve of that. That was what I liked.
That's a real social network. Yeah.
15 years ago, when we had a whole bunch of social networks that people chose because their friends were there, rather than just
blogs. They were wonderful things.
Yeah.
And we made connections and we wrote about each other and we connected. It was a beautiful thing.
Let me take a little break. Come back. We will do more. Kevin, get a cough sweetie.
What's the brand? What's the very English brand you use for coughs and cough drops, Kevin? It's got to be something.
Locket's
cough sweeties for when you can't breathe. Get a Locket. All right, I'm looking them up. Here we go.
Also have Fisherman's Friends, but I don't actually have any of those.
Fisherman's Friends is
I love Fisherman's Friends.
Quarters of lobster grad. Locket's honey and lemon times 10.
Those are the ones. So I'm down to one now, so I'm going to try and get
$20.
Last locket. Well, that's in the U.S., of course.
U.S., I know.
they're not cheap
That's
over
for
here.
Brit.
Yeah. Look, you can get all three if you want. Beekeeper's Naturals, traditional medicinals, and Lockett's Honey and Lemon for the Anglophile in us all. Our show today brought to you by HPE, Hewlett-Packard Enterprise Green Lake, orchestrated by the experts at CDW. The helpful people at CDW understand your organization needs simple management over its big data, right? But with some needing to keep their workloads on-prem for organizational requirements, it can be challenging to organize and optimize your data, and that's where CDW can help your organization by consolidating and managing all your data in one flexible, unified experience with the HPE GreenLake Edge to Cloud platform. The experience you'll get with HPE GreenLake is unique because no matter where your data or applications live, you can free up energy and resources with automated processes and streamlined management. And we can all use a little more streamlining in our life. Am I right? Not only that, HPE GreenLake creates a seamless cloud experience among multiple data environments thanks to the as-a-service model that meets your remote workforce at the edge. And with unrivaled scalability, you'll see an instant increase in capacity, allowing for greater flexibility and accelerated business growth. So your team can tackle bigger priorities like innovation. When you need to get more out of your technology, HPE makes data transformation possible. CDW makes it powerful. Learn more at cdw.com/HPE. cdw.com/HPE. And we thank them so much for their support of This Week in Google. Yeah, I mean, so Bluesky's moving forward. Great. I don't know. I don't even understand. I don't feel like this is something that you're going to just get a bandwagon effect. Everybody's going to go all crazy for it. Look at all the things Twitter is already doing that none of us really even knew about.
Right. Well, also we've also got the weird Mastodon forks like Parler and whatever the other one was.
Gab is a Mastodon, isn't it? Yeah.
It's got also Mastodon fork.
Yeah. Truth Social was a Mastodon fork, I believe. I don't know how that got resolved. Too. Yeah. Well, there's open source code you can use.
At some point.
Yeah, and it looks just like Twitter, so why not? Yeah. I use, there's an Instagram clone called PixelFed that's also Mastodon. And what's nice is it's federated. So, you can follow, let me log in here, Benito, before you show it so I can show what it looks like. It looks just like, my credentials don't match. What does that mean? Here we go. I was using the wrong login. There we go. So I can follow this on a Mastodon instance. No, I guess I have to reset my password. Maybe something's happened to this. Because I can't log in. But it looks nice. I mean, maybe I can just, can I? No, I can't really. But it doesn't look at all like Mastodon. Here we go. Here's a sample. It doesn't look at all like Mastodon. It looks a lot more like Instagram. You've got comments, you've got likes, you've got suggestions, but it is Mastodon. So so that's kind of cool, right? It's all in the Fediverse.
Yeah, and imagine if you had a universal identity. This is Kevin's vision all along, right? Across the platforms, and you publish once to many places, and maybe their beginnings and the roots are there, and what Kevin has done and Mastodon has done, and if Twitter can come along, don't give up yet, boss. Don't give up. Have a little hope.
Yeah, interoperability is a slow process because you've got to get people to believe in it and then implement it, and also you've got to make it easier for them to do it, which is part of the iteration of this.
Right.
And that's something we learned.
What's the definition of critical mass, too? Is critical mass everybody? I don't think we want that necessarily anymore. Critical mass is the people that you care are there. We'll see.
Well, that's the thing we're seeing is that people are less comfortable with publishing stuff publicly, and they're doing more stuff in friend groups and chat groups and things now. Anyway,
I feel like Discord, for example, has already pretty much solved this problem, and just because it's not visible. The only people who see what's going on are the people in those groups. We're not even aware of it.
Discord is messy. I think
is it?
to a Twitter user. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it is.
Oh, it's
like
sort of,
it's not to a Slack
like
user,
Slack,
it's
yeah.
not, but to a Twitter user.
Or to a Facebook user. I think it's a good alternative, right?
Yeah, it's less messy than Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
But it doesn't matter. The AI is going to speak for us. It'll be fine.
Let's move on then. I guess, I mean, we'll continue to follow this for sure. We will be talking more about it with Rabble next week. Rabble is the creator of Planetary and has its own, what is it called? What's the protocol? Rumble? I can't remember. Yeah.
No.
Something like that.
No, I can't remember either. It's
Rabble.
gossip-based protocol. Damn it!
It's gossip-based.
Is it Robble? Is it a McDonald's-based protocol?
I'm looking at the website here, planetary.social. So even this is really being sold more as a something looks just like Twitter, right? But has advantages over Twitter. Scuttlebutt. There it is.
Scuttlebutt. That's what it's called. Yeah, there we go.
Scuttlebutt.
How could you forget?
Scuttlebutt. It's a great name.
Gossip was wasn't it the Google protocol long ago? Google Chat,
Maybe
something like that. Maybe
there was.
Gossip is a generic term for that kind of protocol where you share stuff side to side. It's a bit sort of Usenet-like, where you've got a bunch of servers that share bits and pieces to each other, and it gathers stuff that way.
What happened to XMPP? Would that have been a good choice? Did we throw out something good, like Google tried to throw out RSS?
So XMPP was reasonably good at interop, but it was a bit annoying to scale. There was a certain amount of friction about the extensibility. Basically, it was one of those XML protocols that got a bit verbose. But it was useful. Basically, it was useful for interop until everyone decided they didn't want to interop anymore. That was the thing. It's like a lot.
Yeah, everybody wanted silos.
Yeah.
Because Google was using it, Facebook was using it, AIM was using it, Microsoft was using it, and then they all decided, alongside their own protocols, then they all decided, actually, we don't want to do this anymore. We want to have our own proprietary ones. We can make it much more, much more the same shape as our internal APIs and do it that way. When it stopped interoperating, which is a shame. And they, which is my same experience with OpenSocial, which was like, yeah, we can make everyone interoperate. It's like, yeah, that's great. No, we don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
So, okay.
I stand by what we said earlier. You weren't here yet, Kevin, when we said that social is dead. It's being replaced by content. Oh, content is dead.
It's being replaced by AI.
It's being replaced by AI. So it's all over for everybody. Everybody. And now you've got Letitia James, people like her, accusing social media of radicalizing people. The New York State Attorney General's office and the governor on Tuesday released the findings of an investigative report on the mass shooting in Buffalo. The shooter was first indoctrinized and radicalized through online platforms.
Indoctrinized?
Indoctrinated.
Is that the word they used?
No.
Oh, indoctrinated.
I'm sorry. It's the word I used.
Makeup?
First indoctrinized and radicalated through online platforms. The radicalization happened by, quote, explicitly racist, bigoted, and violent content he viewed online on 4chan, Reddit, and elsewhere. She said fringe platforms like 4chan fuel radicalization and later damage vulnerable communities. Then they said, oh, and by the way, it shouldn't be allowed that you live stream mass shootings. Yeah, I agree. That seems a good idea. Don't allow that.
Yeah.
No one allows that.
It won't happen.
Pass it along.
Pass a law, it won't happen again.
Yeah. The suspect live streamed on Twitch for about 2 minutes. It is the case, though, that those 2 minutes got circulated among extremist groups. And she said even this relatively short video is enough for the horrific content to spread widely and inspire future shooters. And you know what? That's probably true. The target
so did news stories about it in the past. So did lots of things.
Well, notice I did not say his name. His name appears in the report. I'm not going to say his name. I don't think we ever should glorify these people. You should never know who they are. They should disappear down the hole of memory hole of history. But that's not always the case. The new Democratic governor of New York, Kathy Hochul,
Yes.
Says this report offers a chilling account of factors that contributed to this incident and, importantly, a roadmap toward greater accountability.
We need Ant here with his moral panic. So.
Yeah. Well,
a Section 230 button you press and it like does a soundboard thing for Section 230.
It is, of course, that's where they're going. But
that's where it's going.
I can't disagree with them, though, that is the fact of the matter. I don't think you should pass a law against radicalization.
Well, but Leo,
against guns is the thing you do. I mean, I know I'm the Englishman here, but that's the bit that's the missing link.
Yeah, exactly. Kevin's exactly right. There was another paper today that I actually put up under my stuff at 120 that backed up work done by a Danish social psychologist named Michael Bang-Petersen, in which they say that the echo chambers are the ones in our real life. And what the internet does is it exposes us to people that we don't like and we fear, and that it does not turn us in, it does not make us hate. It brings our hates out. And so if you go down the thread,
because I hate those Nazis. I agree with him.
So the problem is that it's a very oversimplified answer to say, oh, this guy was perfectly normal, and then he watched some online videos, and he decided to go off and shoot a bunch of people.
Yeah, they're not saying that, are they? Are they saying that? If they're
kind of saying that. They're kind of radicalized.
Yeah.
That he was before that he wasn't radical, and no, before that he was full with hate, and yes, he found the means. It
gave him an avenue.
Exactly, but
which is not good.
There, no, he's in company should take it down. Yeah, but
this is like pro anorexia sites, right? I mean, that's been an issue for decades now, and not necessarily it certainly hasn't been won, but there were a lot of battles fought to try to reduce the amount of exposure of that kind of information online. It's the reinforcement. It's not necessarily an echo chamber. It's a tighter and tighter feedback loop against more and more like-minded people who reinforce the most radical of your ideas. And I see this happen on the left. You see people following, for a while, Louise Mensch would say any crazy thing. Kevin knows very well who she is. I'm sure the rest of you do too. But former MP who moved to the U.S.
I haven't heard her name in all the while there.
Oh, well, she was during Trump. It's, the United States Supreme Court Marshal is going to arrest Trump on the runway. And people wanted to hear that, and they would amplify it. Or some of the election, not fraud, but the people, election integrity people, not the people like Matt, whose last name I'm blanking, Matt Blaze, who are sensible and rigorous and academic and have citation and so forth. But there are other people in that realm who exist solely to feed that. So it's not a right-wing only phenomenon. It's that the right didn't have as much enabling factors. A lot of what people want to do in extremist circles on the right, they had a harder time finding like-minded people to the quantity that they can now. I don't know that the left was necessarily easier, but it feels like the internet algorithms tend to bring people together with more extreme reactionary than radical ideas. I don't know if that's provable or not. But
I'm not sure that's strictly true. Cory Doctorow's analysis of this is quite good because he ties it up with the brainwashing narrative plays into the hands of Facebook because that's what they're selling. They're selling we can persuade people to buy things by using our network. But actually what they're doing is selecting subsets of people to talk to.
Right.
And so you can pretend you're a genius marketer by thinking of a subset and defining one, and it'll go out and find that subset for you and show your ad to them, which feels like you have got more control than if you're just doing keyword.
Kind of confirmation bias, sort of.
Right. Yeah. But the thing that it does is it does help you find groups of people who you kind of sympathize with and you'll follow, and then it'll reinforce that and build up that feedback loop. And so you end up with...
Which could be very good, like Black Lives Matter and Me Too.
Yes, exactly.
And this is community, and these are tribes, and these are houses of worship, and all kinds of good things through the years. Let's not lose sight of that.
Yeah, it's
just because some jerks get together doesn't mean that we shouldn't all get together.
What's the opposite of going down the rabbit hole? Like there is sometimes the opposite. It's like coming out of I don't know. It's climbing up the ladder to the castle in the sky. I don't know, something like that.
Reaching Nirvana or something. Yeah, but it's and that's it. It's like so it's the question of look at your peer groups and see if you really want them to be your peer groups, and if not, change them. But that is hard to. It's hard to know because if you sort of stumbled into that group and that's where you're getting your validation, that is part of the worry of it.
It's also though if you have 5 isolated people, each of whom hates the governor of Michigan, let's pretend. And in the non-online world, in the days before social graphs and reinforced behavior or connections, those 5 people would just hate the governor of Michigan and not do anything about it. But in the current era, those 5 people have found each other and they go out and try to kidnap her. I mean, this isn't the facts.
No, happened. They could find each other pretty easily before, couldn't they?
But could they? I mean, we had militias, but the issue is, are we in a new era of mass radicalization and mass reactionary, revanchism? Have things changed because it's easier to find other people who, I mean, here's a great example, and forgive me, but I'm talking about pedophilia, but I think it's an important one, is when you look at what's the correct term? It's the begins with it's child's sexualized images. I can't
grooming.
No, I'm sorry. There's CSAM, right? CSAM. So those. It is absolutely the case that people, because it's an illegal activity, people, were limited in their ability to exchange material in front of other people like them. And the internet gave people who have a predilection to view those kinds of images a greater opportunity to find one another because of the illegal and forbidden nature of it, right? And so it's absolutely the case, but they're also being more centralized. It's allowed people who fight the proliferation of CSAM and abuse of children online, it's given them more tools to find large numbers of people engaged in it. Yeah.
Well, so Glenn, it's also true that, and there is a lot of research about this, the extremes are always tiny numbers. And so it's not about mass. It's not about everybody. It's about, in your case of the Michigan, it's about enough people to go and threaten the life of the governor of Michigan.
Right. Are we reaching
and what's that
mass?
Critical mass?
Yeah. But does the internet spark that? Does Facebook, I mean, I guess this is the point, and the question is, does the algorithm or all the algorithms, when you go on YouTube and in 10 minutes you're being shown how the Illuminati control the finances of the world or something, and you started like, I was looking at shark videos, how did I get here? Like, is that something that actually causes harm or not?
So that's the question, and that's what that article was supposing, is that YouTube tends to lend itself towar's that kind of radicalization. But
there's research that punctures that as well.
So yes. I will grant you what you were saying, Kevin, which is...
Also, YouTube has changed it a bit. YouTube was much worse.
Right.
Yeah.
And they've adjusted what they do now to try and avoid those rat holes.
If you think Mark has always said this, people are happier when connected. It's all about being connected. Here we are, we facilitate communities. And yes, there'll be positive communities, there'll be negative communities, but we've created a platform that facilitates that. We need
to learn how to live together, and that's the problem. I think a lot of my view of this, it goes back to the industrialization and mechanization of media. When media became mass, we were all presumed to be the same, and there was this one kind of view of society where a lot of people felt left out on both ends of the spectrum of class from that picture of what society was.
There were precious few ways of creating community in the past, and it was always geographic, right? If I'm not your neighbor, we can't kidnap.
Right, if you're a gay person
we can't kidnap Gretchen Whitmer together because I need to be next to you. And that's what happened. Gay people formed communities of interest in San Francisco and other places because they did want to be together. With geographic, so the internet has allowed us to transcend geography in all sorts of ways, including that. So really, isn't the only question whether these companies and these algorithms are pushing us in a negative way? I mean, they're pushing community, but
they're always doing both, Leo. They're always going to do both. And it's not them. That's a technological determinist view, that the technology and the company makes us do something. This has been a long time a racist nation.
No, Jeff, no. If you've invented a social network, the point of which is to allow people to form communities, non-geographic communities of interest, you set that all up. This is all the machinery is setting up communities of interest. You're going to get all kinds. You're going to get communities of people who knit and communities of people who want to kidnap governors. That's fine. That's kind of a neutral platform. But there seems to be some evidence that some of these platforms which are optimizing for engagement, that their engagement goes hand in hand with, outrage or some sort of emotional buzz that tends to lead you in toward a particular kind of community you might not necessarily want to join.
This is where Siva Vaidyanathan, who can't stand Facebook, who's written books against Facebook and Google, right? But Siva will argue strenuously, don't try to isolate one and blame them. It's a media ecosystem, and it includes the media itself. It includes Fox News. It includes MSNBC. It includes CNN. It includes newspapers.
So Fox is a good example.
It includes all kinds of things.
Of a channel that succeeds by accreting a certain kind of person.
Absolutely.
Right? That's their goal. You might make the case, I think you probably could make the case, that somebody might stumble there at a neutral and be same thing with MSNBC and be tilted in one direction.
Oh, I watched my father, who is now 96, who was a reasonable Republican, who went on the deep end, and then when he couldn't hear anymore, and his hearing aid didn't work literally for the year in COVID until we got him up here, and he doesn't watch Fox anymore, and he just voted Democratic.
Right.
Never thought that would happen in my life.
Wow.
Yeah. So
deprogrammed by the absence of Fox News. And his memory.
So clearly that's it. So the internet facilitates these communities of interest across geographic lines. That's neutral. We just want to make.
How I met Glenn.
Right. Yes, exactly.
That's my hero, Jeff.
Yeah. So that's fine. That's what we want. That's what the internet does.
Yeah.
What we don't want is for companies, especially companies who are doing this with a profit motive, to foster a certain kind of connectivity. Is that right?
Well, no. Do we want them to foster a positive connectivity? Then the argument becomes, what's a positive connectivity?
Well, that's right. So it should be neutral.
Well, no. There's no such thing as neutrality.
There's
no such thing in life as neutrality. It doesn't exist.
But this is where I get I'm not frustrated, but I think my head starts to spin. Where it's I think we all agree. Maybe, and correct me if I'm wrong. I think we all agree that there's a different whether social networks reinforce existing beliefs or help people gain new beliefs. Like, I think it's I think you can make a strong argument that QAnon spread heavily online, but there was been a very strong real world component of it where people recruit and meet and sort of in certain circles and have spread it that way too. So it's got two parallel vectors, but one of them, it really began and spread as a strictly online thing and became this political movement that has tens of millions or hundreds of millions of people around the world who believe in it. Right. So I don't think that could have existed just with a real life component. We've seen how groups that want to practice violence in the United States in particular, how they've been constrained in the past in recruiting people when it has been a geographic based thing. And it's the same thing with groups that are more positive too. The ones that are extreme obviously have the limits of engaging in often illegal activities, so they have to hide it, and online gives them a better place than other any kind of thing you could do in real life where you're trying to find the right kinds of people. So I guess where I go round and round is like, so what's the role? Like YouTube, I don't know if they ever agreed, Kevin. I know that they made those tweaks, but they changed their algorithm so it doesn't take people quickly into like the biggest conspiracy theories, or that's what it seems like. If you know that tweaking the algorithm changes what people see and how they're directed into political or conspiracy ways, then is there a role for government in which it could regulate? I mean, I think it would be very difficult to regulate any kind of fashion that wouldn't provide bias or cause other problems. But is there a role for any party to say we need to have a comprehensive change, we need to have a specific change in order to prevent extremists from finding community online that is different than the kind of community they would find in the real world?
The challenge is how you specify that. I mean, and it does come down to effectively the platform setting acceptable use policies and deciding to enforce them.
Right.
And Reddit has started to do this. Reddit has like thousands of sub communities, and some of them are toxic, and they've been gradually deleting a few of them. But it's fairly easy for them to spawn a new one. But by actually actively deleting that has helped a bit with Reddit. Reddit does have a bunch of useful communities on it.
Reddit's clearly not 4chan, right? So they've done something to keep themselves from becoming 4chan.
Well, and then 4chan became too moderated for people,
right?
Became 8chan, right?
So is Jeff, is Vance Packard discredited these days?
Oh yes, absolutely. The
Hidden Persuaders.
The Hidden Persuaders was faked.
Because it was his contention in the 50s that
movies.
Movies. He was talking about those blipverts, but it was his. I don't think his.
That guy. Okay.
I don't think his basic contention was wrong, which was that companies and politicians and other groups want to influence people. He said they were doing it in movies and TV. I'd love to see what he would have thought of the internet. I guess
Here's
that's
another
the question. Clearly, Rupert Murdoch is a malign influence, right?
Amen.
And so he has created a platform that is clearly designed to influence, and has succeeded very, very, very well in that with Fox News. So that's bad. We can
and the Times and the Sun, yes.
Yeah, and the Times and the Sun.
He's specifically funding the creation of misinformation.
Yeah.
Maybe not disinformation, but certainly misinformation, which is separate than individual, right? It's separate than a collection or coalescing of individuals who have maybe brainworms.
Yeah.
Bad idea.
So Leo, let me answer your question this way. If we agree there's bad propaganda, is there good propaganda? Right? Is convincing people to wear masks and get vaccinations? Is that propaganda? Is that education? Is education propaganda? Should journalism be having these outcomes and judge our success or not based on that? Those are the kind of questions that I ask and don't necessarily answer in school.
Or maybe our mores should. Well, but see, we wouldn't agree on what is propaganda.
But that's how we negotiate. That's the whole process. We are renegotiating our norms in a new reality. And voices who were not heard in mass media are now heard. Black voices, women's voices, queer voices. And the old powerful voices hate that. Yeah. And they want to, at once, the paradox you mentioned before, shut them up. You can't mention gay, but then condemn them because you can't convert people to being gay and all that stuff. And we're going to hate people and use the F word, as Glenn said. And so that's the kind of, we're in this negotiation. There was a wonderful Twitter thread by a Canadian academic named Regina Rini about 2 years ago, in which he said that there's a fight between those who want to add to the list of things that are not considered polite in society. You can't say girl for woman anymore. And there are those she called the status quo warriors. No, you can't tell me what to say. How dare you tell me what to say? No, I'm not telling you. I'm just suggesting that I find this offensive or bothers me, and we should have a discussion about whether that's something we still consider civil. And so that's now being that negotiation is now being called cancel culture. It itself is being poisoned with the idea that we can't do that. We can't argue about that. No, we must argue about that. That's what society is. And when we talk about polarization, what bothers me so much about that motif is that it acts as if to say I hate Nazis, I'm the bad guy because I'm being polarizing and I'm pushing them off. No, if you try to find a new center where the Nazis are closer to me and normalize them, and that's what media have done in the last 6 years, that's a real problem. So
an interesting thing happened.
That's why I say there's no objective. There's no.
Yeah, no, I understand. It's who's going to make the rules. That was the
worrying thing about Suella Braverman, because she was the Home Secretary until yesterday, and she was just passing laws about public dissent and online censorship, and she was the one doing the tofu eating wokerati enemies of the people type nonsense in Parliament.
So there's an interesting
basically regurgitating this sort of weird slogan-based.
I have a case study I'd like to propose. So in this country, there are, 1,000 radio stations, local radio stations. And for a long time, the FCC prohibited one company from owning more than 2 stations in any given market.
Yeah.
And as a result, there was a great diversity of thought in these radio stations. Now, I don't know, this might just be coincidental timing, but last 2 decades, the FCC's changed that rule. And what happened is a handful of very large companies bought up all the radio stations in the country. So there are really only 3 different companies that own the vast majority.
What are those companies, by the way?
iHeart is number 1, Cumulus is number 2, and Entercom, now called Odyssey, is number 3. There, by the way, all of them faced with huge debt because they leveraged all these acquisitions.
Right.
So Odyssey is close to being delisted from the stock exchanges. Last time I checked, its stock was 88 cents. iHeart had to renegotiate its debt because it could not. The debt burden would have driven it into bankruptcy as well. And they were able to renegotiate the debt, and I think will go forward. But that consolidation, once they get over the massive cost of it, allowed. Now this is a question if there's correlation or causation. What happened over the last 20 years is that local talk radio veered dramatically to the right. There have been attempts to create left-wing talk radio at the MSNBC of talk radio, progressive talk radio.
Air America.
Air America failed miserably. All failed miserably. People love right-wing talk radio. Now, there's probably a lot of demographic reasons for that. The only people who listen to AM radio anymore are into their 60s. So there may be demographic reasons for that as well. But for some reason, the only way you could make money in radio became right-wing talk.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, you can say it's related to this consolidation, maybe. You could say it's related to the aging demographic, the dying of the medium, maybe. Or maybe right-wing talk, I think this is the case, is actually much more, it gets you going, it gets you excited, it gets your blood pumping. People love it, and I think it radicalizes people. You point to Fox News as radicalizing the nation. I think Rush Limbaugh and his ilk did far worse. They not only started it, I think they might have done far worse, because they're talking to people. Yes. They used to anyway be talking to people for hours a day, and I've seen many people radicalized by it. So is that an example of that's an algorithm, it's a human algorithm, where program directors all across the country noticed that when they went right-wing, Rush Limbaugh just dominated, that it worked really well. When they went left-wing, it didn't work well. So we'll do more of that. That's an algorithm, right?
Yeah, it is.
Driven by profit.
And also centralized algorithm by one of the three companies, because they were basically scheduling.
It's more centralized.
Station centralized.
But maybe it's just because somebody did it and then everybody noticed, hey, look, it worked. Radio has also done that. The oldies format swept radio even when there was 1,000 different older stations, because it worked. People liked oldies. So
I think you mentioned there
that's a case study, but I don't know what caused it.
It's really interesting, though, there, Leo. I think I realized the other day that broadcast has gone from 1920 to 2020, and is really coming to its end.
100 years.
NBC is going to give up 10 o'clock. Radio's dying.
The BBC.
Yep, exactly. And that was a century of broadcast. It was a century of the real mass, and I think that's what's ending. And there are those who still, when Semaphore started on Tuesday, and their opening video was being nostalgic about Walter Cronkite, for Christ's sakes. That was a very limited view of America.
Because Edward R. Murrow was just too far.
Yeah.
Too long ago.
And that's the way it was.
I was thinking about that last night, about how Walter Cronkite is ancient history, right? I mean, he
my students did not know who he was.
No, they called him Old Iron Butt because he was an AP guy who just happened to be able to sit for hours at a time and broadcast, and really had no opinion or point of view. In fact, it wasn't until Vietnam that he ever had an opinion or point of view. As soon as that happened, that changed a lot of how we think of the influence.
So here's another
news.
way to ask your question, Leo: Is radio inherently conservative? Talk radio inherently conservative? Is television inherently liberal? Or is the internet inherently one or the other? Or no?
Well,
there's
the
no
only
such.
reason I'm bringing this up is because the heat generated by right-wing talk on radio was very good commercially. And it sure looks like the same kind of heat that's generated on Twitter and on Facebook and social media. And I think it's possibly the case, again, I don't know, because it's, there's a lot of variables, but it's possibly the case that just gets humans, where they live and is engaging. And so you're going to make more money when you do it.
The psychology experiment story, I think I may have even told it on this podcast before, or video cast before, but stop me if I have, is, and I think it's an alleged experiment. I'm not sure it actually ever occurred, but it has the truthiness to it, right? Is that students decided to play an experiment against their professor in a psychology class. So starting at the beginning of the term, they only paid attention to him when he was on one side of the room. And by the end of the term, they had him crouched into a corner and he wouldn't move from it when he spoke. Now, again, I don't know. I believe I've read that this is it's apocryphal, but you can see how well that would work. And I feel like Rupert Murdoch became successful. I would say there's a small element of how he pushed people in a direction, right? It is propaganda. When you're confronted with the same information, you're told it's true in an authoritative way, you can internalize it. Not everyone has the critical facilities to resist that indefinitely or even any interest in it. So, right, that's part of it. But it's also, he went where his audience was. The New York Times has a profile today of the Fox News. I think she's the president or CEO, I've forgotten which, and that it's something like something like her motto is never to work against the beliefs of her viewers, but she assembled viewership it says, even in the little nice nugget in the story was, even if that means ignoring a major story for a year, right? And like the January 7th thing. Or January 6th, excuse me, I've already forgotten. So the question I have is all media an experiment of getting the professor to stand, to crouch in the corner of a room, but as an audience member? So Rupert Murdoch is that audience, is the people in the students, and he's only paying attention to I'm saying this the wrong way. Rupert Murdoch is that professor crouched in the corner, but it's a very lucrative corner, and the students are the people watching. Yeah, if the audience isn't paying attention in that corner, then would Rupert Murdoch, and I think we've seen this in some properties, some things he's done, he has moved, or various people in his empire have moved things away from that corner, right? And we have much more extreme networks that are on cable that have been blocked. I'm blanking out one.
OAN. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Those folks who are much more
willing to lie.
Much more partisan, even further to the right than Fox by far.
I think you nailed it. I don't think Rupert Murdoch. Well, he has certain economic desires. He has certain
political things that he does push for.
He does have some, for political.
Absolutely.
But mostly he's interested in money.
And people don't buy tabloids. People don't buy tabloids at the checkout counter. They buy them partly because they're there, but they buy them because they like the headlines and they optimize. I mean, SEO is supermarket checkout, right? And it's now can be done 1 billion times the scale.
Here's the Washington Post. How TikTok ate the internet. By the way, this is like getting on the cover of Sports Illustrated. As soon as you got a think piece about your social network, it's certainly about to die.
You can guess this.
But it really,
I hardly knew these.
And so TikTok's
Read the subhead, Leo. Read the subhead of that one.
The world's most popular app has pioneered a new age of instant attention. Can we trust it? Now that was why I put this article in here, is this whole notion of, are we being manipulated? Somebody sent me an article from a professor who said, VR is going to be the ultimate manipulation tool, because when you're in there, I can feed you stuff that's going to make your mind go any way I want it to go. Maybe that's true, maybe not. But
nope, same nonsense.
Yeah.
So I've got another quote for you. David Foster Wallace in E Unibus Plurum said, TV is not vulgar and prurient and dumb because the people who compose the audience are vulgar and dumb. Television is the way it is simply because people tend to be extremely similar in their vulgar and prurient and dumb interests and wildly different in their refined and aesthetic and
language. I love that. Again, a brilliant quote.
This is absolutely right. I've heard this about, gifted children, right? Gifted children are seen as a category, and, it's measurable, right? And there's a whole debate about gifted education. And I went through a gifted program when I was a kid. Can you tell maybe a little bit that I was...
you were molded,
full of myself, right? Anyway, from a young age. But in gifted education, the thing is, kids who are more normative in general education tend to be, the studies show, more alike. Gifted kids tend to be much more different. And it's not that it's not a measure of better or even intelligence at some level. It's that it's one of the measures of giftedness is that their interests and abilities tend to be dramatically more spiky.
Which makes them disruptive in the classroom.
Exactly. They might be extremely good at math or art, but they're terrible at another subject.
Yeah.
But they're they're not in that normative thing. It's the same thing.
A lot of these GATE programs are just to get those kids out of the mainstream classroom and off with somebody who can tolerate their interests.
Kevin, what you read is so perfect, though, is that the mass of people are much more similar, right? That is the thing.
Yes. But it's not even the mass is similar. It's just that they all want to watch. Oh, I see. Everyone will watch.
We all like
reality
cats.
TV.
Yeah.
Right.
And cats on the internet, and
there's much more diversity in our higher level interests than there is in our low interests. We're all interested in cleavage and cats. It's all we care about. And as a result, that's all
Which
TikTok
is the economic point of the mass.
Yeah. And you can't blame TikTok or Facebook or Fox or Rupert for chasing that. He's like the professor in the corner of his class.
He's just, whether they have any moral standards to how far is too far.
But no, you look, having a moral standard in a large broadcasting company is an absolute recipe for failure. So let's not go there. I don't think
cover the BBC a little bit here. I mean, they've been trying,
but subsidized by the British government, for crying out loud. That is not a commercial entity. I'm talking capitalist.
It's earmarked tax. I know, but that's the point. The point is that's why you have to do something different. And it's been running 100 years. Its mission is educate, inform, and entertain. and it tries really hard to do that.
And it doesn't have a commercial motive, right?
Right.
Well, it does now as well, but it's not very good at it. You know,
to the degree it has a commercial motive, I would submit
its budget.
that's the degree it's starting to be terrible.
Yeah, but like the local radio thing, the sort of Liz Truss's first obvious collapse was she did 8 interviews in a row with different local radio stations in the UK on the 28th of September and got taken apart. Literally 8-minute interviews, and she was thinking, oh, local radio people, they'll be easy. And they just completely took her apart one after another. If you get a chance to listen to that, it's a masterclass in media.
God bless radio, that's all.
Stitched together into one long thing you could listen to, so you could hear each of those interviews. There's
a podcast for the whole thing. It's brilliant.
We have so many other stories, and we're not going to get to any of them. I hope you don't mind. But
TikTok going porn.
We're gonna no, it's not going porn. They're just gonna have some streams that limit to 18 or over. It still have the same exact rules. You misread the head. You read the headline.
I was trying for sensationalism.
Yeah, that's totally sensationalistic. Good news for Netflix. They suddenly developed 2.5 million more subscribers and shocked the market.
Sure, it was Sandman.
Yeah, Sandman did it. No, I think it's Jeffrey Dahmer did it. I hate to say it.
I am so disgusted by that.
I won't watch it. It is loathsome.
This hunky serial killer thing that there's so many programs that are obsessed with silly serial killers, fictional and
lowest common denominator programming.
Yeah.
Talk about monkey brain going after the monkey mind, right? But exploitation works.
Yeah.
All right, I want to take a little break, and then believe it or not, I hate to say it, but Picks of the Week time coming up next. Right. We have so many things we could have talked about. I'm not even going to do the changelog because we've had such a great conversation.
Rules are all off.
Well, I'm trying to get this show down to 2 hours, dude. It was 3.5 hours 2 weeks ago, and Stacey's never come back. So
she's hiding.
She disappeared. It's like, yeah, I can't do this anymore. So we're going to try to get this show down to a reasonable length of time. Also, out of respect for our 3 great panelists. Love you, Kevin Marks. It's so nice to have you.
Even Oda Combat, you're here. Thank you, Kevin, for sacrificing your
it's midnight in the UK, so
you should be sleeping.
You should be going to bed, so we're going to let you get to bed. Of course, the wonderful Glenn Fleishman. I hope we can get you on more. I told our producers, I said, Glenn should be our regular fill-in. I just love Glenn.
Yeah,
and then
so much.
I've successfully avoided you two talking about fonts, and so I consider this a victory on this show. Jeff Jarvis. Maybe though there'll be some lead type in our future. Coming up in just a bit, our picks of the week. Ooh, but first, this word from Nareva. Today's IT pros. You're in a tough spot. I know. The shift to hybrid working. Oh my gosh. Some people are here. Some people aren't here. Some people are on Zoom. Some people are in Barbados. I don't know what's going on. You got to equip and support more spaces with audio and video conferencing systems. And that's a nightmare all by itself. And meantime, you still got network security, the move to the cloud, infrastructure issues, all these other things, endpoint security to think about. And then there's product shortages and delays. IT, my deepest respect for you. There's such pressure on IT resources, people, time, expertise, budgets. So I've got a solution for you. For if you're looking for an intelligent product that requires minimal effort from IT to deploy and manage and scale, that will solve your audio and video conferencing issues and requires zero end user training, this is Nareva. When it comes to audio conferencing in larger spaces, often people choose, and I think it's a big mistake to go for these very expensive multi-component systems that somebody has to come in, design, install. Then you got to tweak them and maintain them, and it's just a nightmare. And you don't want to add more burden to your already burdened IT department. You will love Nareva. They will love Nareva. These are simple solutions that work really well. With Nareva, you get, for instance, true full room mic pickup from just 1 or 2 microphone and speaker bars that you can install yourself in half an hour. Climb up a little ladder. Have you ever put in a sound bar? It's that easy. No multiple mics, speakers, amps, DSP switches, none of that. You can install Nareva in most spaces in less than a half an hour. In a larger space, maybe it'll take an hour. You put in 2. Very simple, no special expertise required, but you're really taking advantage of this patented technology. They call it the Nareva microphone mist technology that uses computational audio to put microphones everywhere in the room. So people in these meetings can sit where they want, face where they want, can be comfortable. And you can be comfortable too. Your IT department can be down the hall, monitoring, managing, updating, and adjusting all the Nareva systems right from the Nareva console, which is cloud-based. I guess your IT guy could be working at home. Still do it. Nareva, very scalable for large organizations. Their systems cost a fraction of traditional systems, and they work better. And right now, we've been talking about Nareva for a while, but we've got a special offer I really want to highlight. You've probably heard us talk about this, the microphone mist technology, how well it works in a hybrid workspace. Right now, 50% off a Nareva HDL 300 system for mid-size rooms when you get a live online demo and you buy before December 16th, 2022. Half off. The HDL 300 is perfect for a mid-sized room. It's all you need. It's a sound bar with those array microphones that give you the microphone mist technology. And right now, half off just for you when you go to nureva.com/twit. That's an amazing price. Just compare that to any other system. And it's simple, and it configures itself, and it tweaks itself, and it's so easy to use, and it's so easy to install. Half off the HDL 300 system, nureva.com/twit, nureva.com/twit. Get that live demo online. That's actually a good idea. I want you to hear it before you buy it. And you do have to buy it before December 16th, 2022. nureva.com/twit. This is such a good solution. Great audio. Can be easy and take a lot of the burden off your IT guys. nureva.com/twit. Thank you, Nareva, for supporting This Week in Google. And, of course, you support us when you use that special address. nureva.com/twit. Now, we get back to the show. There's so much more stuff to talk about, but I think, the robot testifying before the House of Lords, that's incredible.
We'll do a better job than half the cabinet now.
IDA shut down halfway through the evidence session. It was the House of Lords, after all. I imagine.
Are you is this in The Guardian? Are you eating tofu also right now?
I imagine at least half of the Lords there were half asleep, so they probably thought it was a real person.
Fitting in with the audience, yeah.
Yeah. What's she saying?
Is that there's one of Boris Johnson's heading out the doors attempts to get Kevin, what's her name? The former Secretary of Culture, Nadine Dorries.
Dorries,
is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah. She may not get her seat in the House of Lords because she lied or allegedly lied to Parliament a decade ago, and so that's nice little.
One nice thing about a robot, they never lie. Here's a little video. I think I can play this of the
quick debate, and I don't want Ada to fall asleep again. Shall we deal with the question to Ada, and then we can.
Ada is the robot.
Ready?
Ada had fallen asleep and had to be
There aren't very many Lords, are there? It's a small group.
This is a committee.
It's a committee.
The Lords Chamber there's actually more Lords than Commons.
Oh.
Hello there.
How do you produce art, and how is this different to what human artists produce?
What?
I produce my paintings by cameras in my eyes. My AI algorithm.
Can you imagine this happening in Congress and what Sean Hannity would make of it?
On canvas, which result in visually.
They might elect the vice president.
All right, that's enough.
Programmed.
Enough of Ada. Mr. Glenn Fleishman, share some of the
mistrust. To be fair,
share some of the wonderful things you have been up to lately.
Well, in honor and commemoration of the late Queen Elizabeth II, I present this, which is.
Oh, I saw this on your Twitter or somewhere. Yeah, this is really cool. This is in the was it the coronation of Queen Victoria? Is that the?
Yes, I have a hard time getting this to.
And note the color.
That's. Can we get it?
There you go. Yeah, that's okay. We get it. Tell us why is this so gold?
this paper, it's called The Paper That Poisoned Its Printers, is kind of a name for it. It's so printed in 1838, and I just got a copy of it, used, a perfectly conditioned copy. And the reason it's called that is they wanted to do a special edition, and this paper, The Sun, and they contracted with the fellow who ultimately, his firm, I'm blanking on his name. It's the one that prints passports now, and actually complained during Brexit that the passports weren't going to be printed by this English company, but by one in, I think, the Netherlands or something. Anyway, so this newspaper, they figured out a technique to essentially brush brass filings, say that 3 times fast, over a kind of a sizing or a kind of gluey material that was printed on the page to give it this gold sheen. So it was golden. And then, of course, here's your fold out section. The cover is a portrait of Queen Victoria, and the back side of it, the other side, is unprinted. So you would cut this out and put this up. And so this is 1838. This is fancy.
Wow.
Artwork.
Suitable for framing. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's a very interesting historic item. And it turns out, there's copies available for sale from time to time. It was not very expensive because it's obscure. Always collect obscure things.
How was it killing the printers?
More fun. So this is the terrible part. So the company, back in the days before there were things like, HIPAA or the equivalent in any country, there's an account from this period. A doctor writes a letter into a medical journal, and he says, I had a patient come in, and he gives his full name and says, this patient was covered in pustules on his various body parts. And this describes the whole condition and asks him, this good doctor, he asks him this is before removing the pump handle, before the invention of epidemiology. This doctor asks the question, what was the cause of this? And the kid says, guy's a teenager, because of course in 1838 you could probably be 11 or 12, be working at a printing plant or wherever. While I was working, we were creating these gold-hued newspapers at such and such spot. So the patient doesn't return after the doctor gives him some treatment advice, and he goes and he does Sherlock Holmesy research. He goes out and he goes to the newspaper plant where they answer a bunch of questions, and he finds out about the brass filing plant. And the deal is there's one company shaving down pieces of brass, and those people were apparently dying. He had secondhand information about it because they're breathing in brass filings. Then all these filings are taken to the printing location, and the printers are brushing it onto this slightly sticky surface, and they're breathing this in, and they're getting scrofulous medical afflictions from it. And so the doctor did all the work and kind of wrote this up as a thing. So it's possible we don't have firsthand information about deaths caused by it, but it's a remarkable thing. But it was possibly the most the widest printed newspaper edition of its time. Probably 250,000 copies were printed over many, many weeks. And at the time, these are all rag paper, right? This is being printed wood pulp paper, like used in paperbacks and newspapers at the end of the 19th century wasn't used. So this is cotton paper. That's why it survives so well. It looks so beautiful. It's a little worn, but it's very fresh. And 250,000 copies. And I think this one is labeled edition. It's the 15th edition of this, printed like 2 weeks later.
You should frame that.
Yeah, I've got it. It's huge. I have to figure out how to open it up. It's a piece of fascinating printing history.
And I might add, in 686 episodes, the first time the words scrofulous pustules have been used on the show.
We're holding back.
Show title.
I don't think that's got good SEO. I hate to say it.
I hear laughing in the background of the studio. Sorry, that's good.
Jeff Jarvis, your number of the week.
So I think the Freedom House, since we're being a depressing show, I'll just continue that motif. The Freedom House issued its annual freedom report on freedom of expression and the internet. And if you scroll down, you'll see a gray box that says that 76% of the people on the internet live of the 4.5 billion people with access to the internet, live in countries where individuals were arrested or imprisoned for posting content on political, social, or religious issues. 69% live in countries where authorities deployed pro-government commentators to manipulate discussion. 64% live in countries where political, social, or religious content was blocked online. 64% live in countries where individuals have been attacked or killed for their online activities since June 2021. 51% live in countries where access to social media platforms were temporarily or permanently restricted, more than half the world, and 44% live in countries where authorities disconnected internet or mobile networks, often for political reasons. So when you hear me screaming moral panic, this is what I'm panicking about.
Well, yeah, nothing we've been talking about today comes close to this. Yeah.
But this is where it heads if you don't fight for the freedoms.
Yeah. Or if you do fight for the freedoms, or if you don't fight for the freedoms. We're not sure. Do you think, Jeff, as grim as this show was, it's only going to get worse?
No, I don't. I really,
okay,
I
you're an
honestly
optimist.
don't. I think, but it may be generations hence. So there was once I debated a German regulator at Perugia. I might have told the story a couple of years ago, and I said, well, just like with Gutenberg, we may have to go through our 30 Years War. And he, with no German irony because it wasn't in his blood, said, it's far too soon to joke about that.
It still lives in our memory. Mr. Kevin Marks, you've got a pick of the week, I note.
Well, I think this goes with the talking about domain names earlier. We've got a link on the Indie website where you can get free domain names.
Oh.
There are certain registrars that will give you high-level domains for free, and they'll sort of upsell you on hosting and things. So it's 4 countries and a few free nom.
I love TK because in my field in editorial, that's what we put in when we don't know something to come, right? So I think I quite like that.
It's interesting that 3 out of the 4, actually I don't know what Tokolo is, but 3 out of the 4 are in Africa.
Pacific Island. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Is it Pacific?
TV. Yeah.
Huh. So that's a IndieWeb special. IndieWeb.org is a great site to visit for anybody who wants to keep the internet free, open, and to keep the good things happening on the internet.
God's work, Kevin.
It really is.
God's work.
It really is. You've got a West Coast Homebrew website club meeting coming up October 19th. That's tomorrow. No, it's tonight. It's tonight.
It's 2 hours.
Yeah. 6 to 8 p.m. in Los Angeles time. You can go from anywhere in the world, though, right? You don't have to.
No, we've moved entirely online and have been for the duration, and we haven't done any in-person ones for quite a while.
Nice.
I think there was a couple of indie web camps done. There was one in Germany, but basically we're doing pretty much everything online these days. And it's fairly smooth.
Is there an agenda, or you just kind of talk about what anybody brings up at these events?
It's sort of come and talk about your website and what you're trying to do with it, and it's fairly free form.
Can you get some help?
Yeah, no, that's part of the point. Is if you say, I'm trying to get a website that does this, and we go, we can help you with that, or have you looked at this thing, and so on.
Yeah, very nice. IndieWeb.org. It's in the events section. Kevin, I hope you feel better soon. I feel terrible keeping you up so late. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, struggling for
really
us.
Appreciate it.
Great to see you.
Yeah.
And it's great to see you too, Glenn. It's been a while.
Oh, you know each other. Awesome.
Yes, we met IRL, I think, possibly first after some blogging. But yeah.
Nice. Very nice.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I saw you at XOXO last, I think, and I'm looking forward to that becoming real
That's
again.
right. Someday the Brigadoon of XOXO will return to Portland. I know everyone's excited about that when that happens.
It's every 20 years, every 7 years. I can't remember.
Oh, well, they did 6 years, I think, right? And then they've been off for 3. They're just at some point it will be safe or safe enough.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kevin Marks. IndieWeb.org. Anything else you want to mention or plug?
No, that'll do for now. IndieWeb.org is good.
I'm so glad you were here to talk about Bluesky. That's fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate your input.
Your wisdom.
Yep. Glenn Fleishman, same to you, buddy. LoveGlenn.fun is the website, GLENN.FUN, at Glenn F on the Twitter. You do other podcasts, I know.
Occasionally. Yeah, find me on the Incomparable Network, where Kevin will appreciate this one, the Pants in the Boot podcast, where I get people together from all over English-speaking countries from around the world. We typically focus on the UK and Australia, New Zealand, but we really love to get, I need to dig up folks from other places where they grew up speaking English as one of the languages spoken in the country that's not a traditional one of those.
What a great idea for a
nations.
podcast.
That's good.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun because it's just, it's a comedy podcast. None of us are professional comedians. We're all wannabe comedian whatever's. But we're talking about, so we'll have an entire episode about lorry versus truck, but then we'll have a episode about the use of native people's words and how they're spreading in the different countries we live in. We have a regular panelist now from New Zealand who can bring in the is it Te Ora? No, it's tell me the right word there for New Zealand in Maori is
Etoroa.
Etoroa. Thank you. And it's anyway, we try to do a little bit of a span. The last episodes that I'm editing right now, we record a bunch at a time. I had someone from Sweden who grew up speaking Swedish, but is also fluent in English and Russian, and a woman in Scotland who grew up in Germany and is married to a Scot now, and our New Zealand friend who lived in Chicago for several years. So we try to span a range of people's speaking background.
I will listen. I love language podcasts, and some of my favorite people besides you, Glenn, you've got Jean McDonald on.
Jean is wonderful.
Yeah, I love her, and of course, associated with Micro.blog, Shelley Brisbane is a regular. A lot of the people we know, James Thompson, Dan Morin.
Thompson.
Yep.
It's a great, it's a lovely gang of people at the Incomparable, and I've managed to sneak them into this side podcast. This comes out every once in a while.
I love it.
The detector van is a lie. I know Kevin will appreciate that one. BBC detector van episode.
That's a fun one. Okay, I'll have to listen to that. Yeah.
There is no detector van.
The BBC has wanted you to think so, but opinions vary.
That's hysterical. I thought there was all this.
There is none, right? Is there? There is none.
They did used to work when TV sets were large.
And basically, you could detect leaked signal, or
because there was resonance in the back of the set. Basically, they just looked at houses with antennas on top and then checked if that address had a
see if you're paying your license fees.
Terrible.
And as you don't necessarily need an antenna anymore, that's a bit harder.
It's thank you, Glenn, and of course, thank you to Jeff Jarvis, who is our moderator. And our Eminence Grise, he's the director of the town.
No, you're the boss. I'm nothing. This is not democracy.
It's a joint, it's a co-moderation ship, I would say.
You
add more stories than I do. He's the director of the Townite Center for Entrepreneurial Journalism at the Craig Newmark Graduate School of Journalism at the City University of New York. Buzzmachine.com. We will see you next week, Glenn. I think next week. Our dearly departed Stacy is not here either, but Ant will be back, and Rabble will join us to talk about Planetary. He was also the lead dev at Odeo, which was Evan Williams' podcast directory before he did Twitter. He says,
if Odeo started today, would Odeo succeed?
Yeah, might. He said he was frustrated at the pivot away from podcasting towards Twitter. He also was at Twitter, and he knows a lot about Bluesky, and of course he's creating his own protocol, which we now know is called Scuttlebutt. Rabble joins us next week. We do This Week in Google every Wednesday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2100 UTC. You can watch us do it live at live.twit.tv or join us in the chat room at irc.twit.tv. Our club members who pay $7 a month to get ad-free versions of all the shows also have their own chat room. It's our wonderful Club Twit Discord. It's going to be the home to Stacy's book club next week. And, of course, lots of other great stuff. If you're not yet a club member, I invite you to join at twit.tv/club. You can also get the hands-on Windows, hands-on Mac, Untitled Linux show, the Giz Fizz, all the other shows that we don't release outside the club. twit.tv/club. After the fact, you get ad-supported versions of this show at our website, twit.tv/twig. You can watch on YouTube. There's a dedicated YouTube channel. And, of course, you can subscribe. In fact, I would recommend subscribing in your favorite podcast client. And if you do that, please leave us a 5-star review. Let the world know about This Week in Google, which is ever so rarely actually about Google. We'll see you next time. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
If you are looking for a midweek update on the week's tech news, I gotta tell you, you gotta check out Tech News Weekly. See, it's all kind of built in there with the title. You get to learn about the news in tech that matters. Every Thursday, Jason Howell and I talk to the people making and breaking the tech news, get their insights and their interesting stories. It's a great show to check out, twit.tv/TNW.